What's up, everybody? Weston here with the Hidden Gibbon, back with another daily deck tech video and back with another viewer request. Still going strong. Like just about 2 months straight of viewer requests. If you want to see your commander made into a deck tech, drop it in the comments down below or fill out the Google form in the video description. If you like what I'm doing with the daily deck techs and such of that nature, feel free to subscribe, only if you feel I've earned it. And now, without further ado, let's get into Felothar, Dawn of the Abzan, shall we? So who's Felothar? Felothar is a 3/3 for Abzan mana, Dawn of the Abzan, go figure, and trample, and whenever Felothar enters or attacks, you may sacrifice a non-land permanent. When you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. And so we are going to be a 1/1 counters deck today, and then we are also going to be running a sub-theme of tokens in here, so that way we can sacrifice our tokens, putting 1/1 counters on our things. Now, how are we going to do that? Also, this is going to be one of those decks where Felothar is good, but the deck can operate if they decide to completely Shrek your commander. We are running 25 creatures today, which I usually stick to around 20 to 25, so this is on the upper end of what I normally play. And who do we have as our supporting cast? Well, we do have Avacyn's Pilgrim in here as a mana dork. You know, get through with that. We also have Kami of the Whispered Hopes, technically a mana dork. If one or more 1/1 counters would be put on a permanent you control, that many plus 1 are put on instead, and then you add X mana of any one color, where X is this creature's power. And then we also have Incubation Druid, 0/2 for 2, adds 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. If that creature has if this creature has a 1/1 counter on it, it adds 3 instead. So, you know, pretty quick for our mana dorks. We also have Abzan Falconer, Outlast, which as a sorcery, you can pay a white and tap it to put a 1/1 counter on this creature. Outlast, like I said, only as a sorcery. Each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it has flying, gives them evasion. We have Bushmaster, Coiled Henchman. He's from the Marvel set here. He's a 2/1 for 2, Death Touch, and each other creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it has Death Touch, also giving them a form of evasion, because lots of people are extremely averse to blocking things with Death Touch. We have Champion of Lambolt, which is creatures with power less than Champion of Lambolt's power can't block creatures you control. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Champion of Lambolt. So if you manage to drop 10 tokens, she will get 10 1/1 counters on her. She's still a solid card. She's been around for a very long time, always done great things. I enjoy her in the decks that I have her in. We have Conclave Mentor. If one or more 1/1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many plus 1 1/1 counters are put on that creature instead. And when Conclave Mentor dies, you gain life equal to its power. So with Felothar here, it would put a 1/1 on all, so it'd put 2 1/1s on all of your stuff. We have Envoy of the Ancestors in here, which gives all of our modified creatures lifelink. It also has Outlast. The lifelink is in here because stabilization is underrated in Commander. Yes, life is a resource. Yes, you have 40 life. Yes, people can just kill you with commander damage, but honestly, people don't really kill people with commander damage very frequently in Commander. And so having a way to just keep your life total stable as you're building up your board state, etc., very good. Evolution Witness, adapt 2. Whenever one or more 1/1 counters are put on Evolution Witness, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. This card's really good, especially in this. You can just, if people have wrapped away your board and you get this out there and just can dump 1/1 counters on it over and over again, you can get all your stuff back. We are also trying out Falcon and Redwing in this deck. It's a 1/2 for 3, flying, and whenever Falcon and Redwing deal combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying, then put a 1/1 counter on Falcon and Redwing, which is pretty good. You know, he has evasion already, and if you manage to dump a bunch of tokens on him before he attacks, then you're going to get a whole bunch of burbs, which will trigger some of your other stuff. We have Felisa, Fang of the Silver Quill. 3/2 for 4. Flying, mentor whenever this creature attacks, put a 1/1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, if it had counters on it, create X tapped 2/1 white and black inkling creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of counters it had. This is pretty good overall. You don't even have to attack with this thing to get value out of it. We have Host of the Hereafter. This creature enters with 2/1 counters on it. This also has absolutely beautiful art. Annie Steg, you did an amazing job. Whenever this creature or another creature you control dies, if it had counters on it, put its counters on up to 1 target creature you control. So redistributing the counter. Corp Chat Madness. This is a classic card. It is seen in a lot of precons. If 1 or more 1/1 counters would be put on a creature you control, put twice that many 1/1 counters on instead. We have Genova, Ancient Calamity. 1/5 for 4. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a number of 1/1 counters equal to Genova's power on up to 1 other target creature. That creature becomes a mutant in addition to its other types, and whenever a mutant you control dies during your turn, you draw cards equal to its power. We also have Kami of the Whispered Hopes, which we already went over. Almost forgot about that. Kodama the West Tree, reach, and modified creatures you control have trample. And whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land card. That was weird. We have Kutzel, Malamet Exemplar. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control, each with power greater than its base power, deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. This is pretty good. Nets you some cards for attacking. We have ourselves Meltstrider Eulogist. Whenever a creature you control with 1/1 counters on it dies, draw a card. This is also great because you can sacrifice one of your little tokens with 1/1 counter on it to your Felothar and get to draw a card off of it. Also, I really like these insect soldiers from Edge of Eternities. Then we have Ouroboros, probably one of the most expensive cards in the deck, but it is certainly not the most expensive. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put X 1/1 counters on each creature you control, where X is this creature's power. It's just super good. It's not legendary either. They should have made it legendary. Ran, Last of the Abzan. When it enters the battlefield with 3 1/1 counters, and whenever a creature you control dies or is put into the command zone, if it had 1 or more 1/1 counters on it, you may put that many 1/1 counters on target creatures. So, redistributes the 1/1 counters. Rishkar, Pima Renegade. Whenever it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures, and each creature you control with a 1/1 counter has tap to add a green. Makes them into a Llanowar. That's very, very good. Making all of your tokens and stuff into mana dorks is great. It just allows you to have gas. Then we have our combo. We have Rosy Cotton and Scurry Oak. So Rosy Cotton says, when Rosy Cotton of South Lane enters the battlefield, create a food. Oh, that's not bad. And then whenever you create a token, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control other than Rosy. And then you have Scurry Oak, which is evolve. It gets a 1/1 counter when something with greater toughness or power enters. And then when 1 or more 1/1 counters are put on Scurry Oak, you may create a 1/1 green squirrel. So if you have both of these in play, and you get a 1/1 counter on Scurry Oak, it creates a 1/1 squirrel, which then Rosy Cotton sees, and then you get to put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. So then you put on Scurry Oak, which then, generates a squirrel, and they see each other, and you can do that ad infinitum, right? You do have to choose a number, but it is, for all intents and purposes, infinite. This is also really great in conjunction if you have Kethar's Crusade out there, so while you're creating all of these squirrels that don't have haste, you are also pumping up everything else on the board by billions if you so choose. Warden of the Grove, at the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. Whenever another non-token creature you control enters, it endures X, where X is the number of counters on it. Enduring is either put X 1/1 counters or create an XX white spirit creature token. We have Winding Constrictor. If 1 or more counters would be put on an artifact or creature you control, you put that many +1 of each of those counters on instead. If you would get 1 or more counters, you get that many +1 of each of those counters instead. Be very careful in case somebody tries to poison you. We have Yathan Toonguard. It's a 2/3 for 3 with Menace, Menace, if you will. Whenever a creature you control with a counter on it deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. This is why lifelink is really important. Sorceries. We do have a ramp package in here and Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, and Rampant Growth. But then we also have our other stuff. We have Damning Verdict, destroy all creatures with no counters on them. Pretty good. Pretty good indeed. Night's Whisper, draw 2, lose 2. We have Germination Practicum. Put 2 1/1 counters in each creature you control. It has Paradigm, so once it's resolved, it will go off every first main phase. We have Parination, return target permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a hexproof counter on it and an indestructible counter on it. So if you have this, just let your Felothar die and then bring it back if you want. Pest Infestation, always a great card. Destroy up to X target artifacts and or enchantments. Create twice X 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with when the creature dies, you gain 1 life. We also have United Front. Create X 1/1 white ally creature tokens and then put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. I love this card. I think this card is extremely underrated. Every game I've played, especially like on Spell Table where I've played this card, I just win. We have Abzan Charm. You can exile a creature of power 3 or greater. You can draw 2 cards, lose 2. And you can distribute 2 1/1 counters among 2 target creatures. So a lot of good utility for you. We have Anguished Unmaking. Exile target non-land permanent. You lose 3 life. Assassin's Trophy for removal. Beast Within for removal. Despark. Path to Exile. Swords to Plowshares. Though Mortify. Those are all removal. We have ourselves Duty Beyond Death. I only know it because I have this version of it. So here you go. For those who cannot speak Japanese, if Moxfield to load, cue elevator music. There we are. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So this is a protection spell. Heroic Intervention, of course, is a protection spell. We have Inspiring Call. Draw a card for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. Those creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. So again, another protection spell. Ink Shield is a fog that nets you a whole bunch of 2/1 Inklings. We have Mughul's Valor. For each creature you control, create a 1/2 white Mughal creature token with lifelink. Then creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Snakeskin Veil, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. It gains hexproof. And Unbreakable Formation, which of course, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. If you play it during your main phase, they also get Vigilance and a 1/1 counter. Artifacts, we're only running 3, but the 2 of the 3 that we're running are very big dudes. We've got ourselves the Ozolith, almost $100 card, taking up about 1/4 of the budget here. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on Adamantium Bonding Tank. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if Adamantium Bonding Tank has counters on it, you may move all counters from it onto target creature. And then the Great Henge, taking up, again, about 1/4 of the deck for its budget. It costs X less, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. You tap to add 2 green and gain 2 life. And whenever a non-token creature you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. Card's great. Card's nutty. And then we have Royal Talon Fighter Jet, which is flying. This vehicle enters with X 1/1 counters on it. Whenever this vehicle enters or attacks, create a number of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens equal to the number of 1/1 counters on it. So, generating you some dudes and getting you a vehicle that you can crew pretty well. Enchantments. You'll notice I'm not running like Branching Evolution, and I'm not running Doubling Season in here. Just wasn't the space for them. When you could probably drop a few creatures to add them in here, but we want creatures in our 1/1 counter deck. We have Abzan Ascendancy. Whenever it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 white spirit. This is pretty good utility. Baron Step Siege, you can choose Abzan or Mardu. If you choose Abzan at the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. If you chose Mardu at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died under your control this turn, each opponent sacrifices a creature of their choice. This is really good. Really, really good with your commander, because it can force your opponents to sacrifice creatures. We have Cathar's Crusade. Whenever a creature you control enters, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Now, personal opinion, I absolutely hate this card. I play it in 2 total decks out of like 80, simply because I don't like playing dice simulator. However, I recognize that the card is strong and good in decks like this, so it is going in there. Use at your own peril and headache, okay? That is my disclaimer. That is what we're doing. Alrighty. Then we have Felothar Retreat. Landfall. Whenever land enters, you can either make a 2/2 cat or put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance till end of turn. We have Hardened Scales. If one or more 1/1 counters would be put on a creature you control, put that many +1 on instead. And then Hollowmark Siege. You choose Sultai or Abzan. Sultai, whenever a counter is put on a creature you control, draw a card. It triggers only once each turn. Boo. And then whenever you attack, put a 1/1 counter on target attacking creature. It gains menace until end of turn. Lands. Some standouts that we have in here are Abandoned Air Temple and Galvany Township, or Gavany. Both of these put 1/1 counters on each creature you control. I really like Abandoned Air Temple, by the way. It has started going up in price as a result of it being good and people realizing that. We have Karn's Bastion for some proliferate. Rogue's Passage to make some unblockable. Vault of the Archangel to give your stuff lifelink, because we already discussed how good lifelink is. We have ourselves 2 little basic fetches and then some random stuff. Our expensive land in the deck is Indaltha Triome. Of course, you can always upgrade the mana base as you see fit. So that is the build. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. And now to see if Moxfield has screwed me over today. Let's look. Well, we got 2 Force and 2 Plains, Akami and Ouroboros. You know what? We're going to do it live. We're going to go ahead and play this Plains because, yes. Oh my. We're going to play a Forest. Yes. Next turn. Now, we're not doing anything overly good here to start the bat. Also, not getting a Swamp is pretty sad, but we are going to play this Kami of the Whispered Hopes. It's just chilling. We're going to play this Vault of the Archangel. So we have 4 available. I'm just going to put Ouroboros into play. We go to combat on our turn. We add a counter. We add a counter. There we go. So now Kami, which by the way, we get another one because of the Kami. Bam. So. And this now taps for 2 of any color. Next turn. We have Plains. We'll tap to add 2 black. This here. And we're going to play Felothar. Right there. Right there. Right there. So we have Felothar in play. We do have 1 black mana floating. Do we want to do anything with our black mana? No, not yet. Not yet. We moved to combat on our turn. So they would get 3, but they're each going to get 4 counters on them. So this will go to 6 already. See how, like, nutty Ouroboros is? Alright. And we may as well swing in with our Ouroboros. Next turn, we go ahead and we draw. We have Abzan Charm. You know, honestly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to play Germination Practicum. We're going to say that it resolves. It's sitting here in exile. Each of our creatures will get 2, so they'll each get 3. So that counters to 9. That is just with that. We move to combat, so everything's going to get 11 more counters. So we are up to 20 counters. This should have 19, I believe. There we are. And we swing in with a 21-21, a 21-23, and, you know, a 22-22. Yeah. Pretty good. pretty good. And that's just with 3 creatures in play, right? So we can play our Exotic Orchard. At this point in time, we just are going to do what we want here because we have Heroic Intervention in play, we have Ink Shield in play, Village Rights, etc. If we just move to attack step, we can just keep bringing in the beats now. And then, you know, if your stuff lives, you know, look at what we're drawing. Pretty good. Let's see one more game, shall we? Yeah, let's go ahead and draw for our turn. We're going to drop down Command Tower, and we're going to drop Hardened Scales. Not a bad 1-drop. Next turn, I am going to... I don't really need to drop anything on turn 2. So we're going to actually drop Deceptive Landscape and pop it, and search for a swamp. Close and shuffle. It enters the battlefield tapped. Next turn, we draw. We're going to put our Swampy Swamp right here. I am going to go ahead and play a Forest. And now we are going to... we're going to drop down the Melt Strider Eulogist. Whenever a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it dies, draw a card. So then we draw for our turn. We'll play a Plains. I'm just going to play Felothar. And then, you know, we're going to pass turn. We don't have anything super fancy going on right now, which is kind of sad. But what we can do is I'm going to play Evolution Witness. And then we're going to pay 2 to adapt it, which puts 1/1 counters on it. So it's going to get at a counter, and then we're going to bring back the Deceptive Landscape from there. It also gets a third 1/1 counter because of the Hardened Scales. Now, I'm not going to sacrifice it. We got a good thing going here. We are going to play Brushland. And yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, this one's a much slower start than our previous game. I think what we're going to do is we are going to choose Abzan. When it goes to our end step, we add 2 counters to each thing, because instead of 1, we get 2 because of Hardened Scales. Now, if those things start to die, we're going to play a Deceptive Landscape again. Now, if those things start to die, then we can have fun stuff happen with that. With Deceptive Landscape, let's see here. Let's go 1, 2, 3. We're going to play Abzan Falconer. Good old Abzan Falconer. Then I think what we're going to do is we are going to Rampant Growth and Deceptive Landscape at the same time. So, you know, I'm going to go ahead here. I'm just going to grab... we're going to grab a Forest. There we go. Forest has been grabbed. We can swing in with our stuff. I honestly don't mind what's going on with this. So there we go. We hit, and then we go to end step. Everything's going to get 2 counters on it. And there we go. Counters 1 on the Evolution Witness. So we're going to get back our Deceptive Landscape. There we go. On our next turn, we draw for our turn. I'm going to Rampant Growth. So there we go. We're going to grab Swamp. Grab the Swamp. I'm going to play Karn's Bastion. And what do we want to do? we are just on the little aggro plan. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll proliferate. This puts 2 counters on each of our things. Then we'll swing and do fun stuff there. We'll say the Evolution Sage gets killed, which then lets me draw a card. You know, gets me Bushmaster Coiled Henchman. All right, that's the deck. That's the playthrough. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. As always, I'm Weston with the Hidden Gibbon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.